Ever find yourself going down like a total rabbit hole about the metaverse? Like it's one thing to hear it's the next big thing, right? But what does it actually look like to interact with it beyond, just strapping on one of those VR headsets?
And we actually have the perfect thing for this deep dive.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, a new academic survey article called State-of-the-Art Human-Computer Interaction in Metaverse,
Okay.
published just last month, September 2023, in the International Journal of Human-Computer Interaction.
So fresh off the presses, hot off the academic press, this is cutting edge.
Yes.
Okay, so for someone who's maybe heard the buzzwords but doesn't live and breathe the tech, what's the need to know here?
Well, I think this article really highlights how HCI, which is human-computer interaction, really acts as this bridge that connects us, our human experiences, to this digital world that the metaverse promises.
Right.
Because that's not enough to just be in the metaverse.
Right.
It's about how we can naturally and intuitively do things there.
Yeah, it's like I get that it could be this persistent and interactive space, even with its own economy.
Right.
But if it's a total pain to actually use it, who cares?
Exactly. And that's where HCI comes in.
Okay.
So the article really dives into several specific technologies that are shaping how we're going to experience the metaverse.
Okay.
And one of those, for instance, is speech recognition.
Okay, so instead of those clunky keyboards, we're talking voice commands, but on another level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So imagine a metaverse where AI isn't just responding to keywords like you're saying,
Right.
but it's actually understanding the nuances of language, the context, and maybe even your intent and emotion.
So I could go up and order a coffee in a virtual cafe and they would remember that I like oat milk just by how I say it.
Precisely. And this isn't just futuristic speculation.
Yeah.
The article actually highlights researchers that are using these AI-powered voice assistants for language learning,
Oh, what?
letting these learners have realistic conversations,
What?
getting grammar correction all in real time.
That's fascinating. It's like having a little language tutor right there in the metaverse.
Exactly.
But what about other senses? What about how we see and how we experience the metaverse visually?
Yeah, so that's where image recognition comes in.
Okay.
And this is key to making the metaverse visually engaging and responsive.
Okay.
And we're talking about more than just realistic avatar,
Right.
although that's part of it.
Yeah.
But imagine environments that react to your subtle gestures or your expressions, creating a truly personalized experience.
So less like those old, really stiff avatars and more like I can actually be myself even if I'm represented digitally.
Exactly. The article gives an example of even in virtual meetings.
Yeah.
Your avatar could mirror your subtle reactions,
Mm-hmm.
making you feel more genuine, or even walking through a virtual store and the environment adapts based on your visual cues, highlighting items that you seem interested in.
So it can pick up on those subtle cues that we give off in the real world.
Exactly.
It's kind of impressive and also a little unnerving if you think about it too much.
Absolutely. And the article does touch on some of the challenges with image recognition, like needing these enormous amounts of data and processing power to make it feel truly seamless.
Oh, right. Right.
And of course, those ethical considerations around data privacy,
Yeah.
which will be crucial to address as this technology develops.
Right. Because if it can see everything we want to make sure it's using it responsibly.
Exactly.
But let's take it a step further. What about touch? How can we feel the metaverse?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The article talks about somatosensory interaction,
Okay.
which is all about bridging that gap between the physical and the virtual
Hmm.
when it comes to our sense of touch.
So we're not just talking about seeing and hearing, but actually feeling sensations like temperature, textures, that kind of thing?
Exactly. Imagine being able to shake someone's hand in the metaverse and feel the pressure of their grip,
Okay.
or picking up a virtual object and actually sensing its weight and texture.
Wow.
And researchers are already developing haptic feedback gloves that allow you to do just that.
That's incredible. I mean, we're talking next level immersion here.
Right.
So what are some of the real world applications of this kind of tech? I mean, where could we actually see this being used?
Well, this article from the International Journal of Human-Computer Interaction, it highlights some really, really exciting possibilities.
Okay.
For one, think about medicine.
Okay.
Surgeons could practice complex procedures on virtual patients
Oh, wow.
and actually get that tactile feedback.
So they can feel what they're doing.
Exactly. Feel what they're doing, the pressure they're applying, everything.
Wow.
Or how about physical therapy?
Okay.
For patients that are relearning motor skills, they could do it in a virtual environment
Right.
that responds to their movements
Oh, that's interesting.
and gives them that really crucial sensory feedback.
It's almost like bringing the physical therapist right to their home in a way.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. And it goes even beyond healthcare. Like think about engineering,
Okay.
being able to manipulate virtual prototypes
Oh, wow.
with your hands
Wow.
and feeling the resistance of materials
Mm-hmm.
or like testing out different designs, all in this completely immersive environment.
That would be amazing.
Right.
Yeah, game changer for a lot of industries, I would think.
Absolutely.
But okay, so let's shift gears just a little bit here because
Yeah.
the article also talks about how all of this kind of ties back to this idea of the metaverse becoming this like vast interconnected space
Right.
for all kinds of experiences, not just work or training,
Absolutely.
right? Like what about just having fun in the metaverse,
Exactly.
right?
What about that?
So one area where HCI can really shine, I think, is in creating those really compelling experiences that we want to spend time in.
Yeah.
Like, for example, education.
Imagine like students can step into a virtual Roman forum,
Okay.
feel the texture of ancient marble. You can hear the bustle of the marketplace.
Wow. Yeah.
It would just make history come alive in a totally different way.
Right. Like, instead of just reading about it, you're like practically living it.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so cool.
And think about students with disabilities too.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It can give them access to these experiences that they might not otherwise be able to have.
That's amazing.
Right. And then there's also, of course, entertainment.
Oh, yeah, of course, right? I mean,
That's a big one.
the possibilities are kind of endless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, imagine instead of just watching a movie, you can actually feel the rumble of an earthquake scene through your seat or the spray of ocean waves in a storm.
So we're talking about truly immersive entertainment,
Exactly.
where you're engaging all your senses, not just, what
Exactly.
you see and hear.
Yeah, it's incredible.
But okay, so we've been talking a lot about the really exciting potential here. I have to imagine, though, there has to be like a flip side to this, right? I mean,
Sure.
what about some of the challenges? What about some of the potential downsides of actually developing this kind of advanced HCI for the metaverse?
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's not all, sunshine and roses.
Hmm.
This tech is still very much in its early stages.
Right.
And there are definitely hurdles to overcome, like just creating truly convincing and realistic haptic feedback
Yeah.
requires incredibly sophisticated hardware and software.
Right.
And not to mention just a deep understanding of how our senses actually work together
Right.
to create that coherent experience.
It's a lot more complex than just like
Oh, yeah.
throwing on a pair of gloves and calling it a day.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really a multifaceted challenge that involves everything from material science to neuroscience.
Wow.
It's very complex.
And I'm sure like on top of all of the just pure technological challenges, there's also things like accessibility and cost to consider.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we want to make sure that if this is going to be something that is available in the metaverse, that it's available to everyone.
Right. Exactly. It's not just,
It doesn't exacerbate the digital divide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It shouldn't be a luxury. This should be something everyone can at least, have the opportunity to experience.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there are always those ethical considerations that we've kind of touched on.
Right.
As we move towards these like more and more immersive experiences, we really have to be very thoughtful and careful about the potential impact
Yeah.
on our perception of reality, our relationships with each other, and even our sense of self.
Yeah. It makes you wonder. Yeah. It really makes you wonder where we go from here. I mean, it's exciting, but also
Right.
a little bit, I don't know,
Yeah.
makes you think.
It's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
But, that's why it's so important to have these conversations now while it's still early.
Right.
While the metaverse is still being shaped. Yeah, we can kind of steer it in the right direction, hopefully.
Exactly. Exactly. And this article from the International Journal of Human-Computer Interaction,
Mm-hmm.
they really emphasize this,
Okay.
that the goal here isn't to replace reality,
Okay.
but to enhance it,
Yeah.
to
Okay.
create these experiences that complement and enrich our lives in a meaningful way.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's not about checking out of reality completely. It's about
All right.
kind of bringing some of that, I don't know, magic into
weird.
real world.
Exactly.
And I think that's where this idea of invisible technology that the article talks about
Yeah.
is so fascinating.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, how can technology be effective if it's invisible? I mean, that
Yeah.
almost seems counterintuitive.
Right. It's about making those interfaces and interactions so seamless, so intuitive
Right.
that they kind of fade into the background.
Okay.
Like, think about how we use our smartphones today.
Right.
I mean, for a lot of us,
Yeah.
it's like an extension of ourselves. Like, we don't even think about the technology. We just use it.
Right. It's like second nature. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's kind of that ultimate goal.
Okay.
With HCI and the metaverse, it's like we want to create these experiences that feel as natural
Okay.
as interacting with the physical world,
Okay.
if not even more. So,
Or so. Wow.
yeah,
So less about the bulky headsets and the controllers and more about, okay, how can technology actually adapt to me as the user
right.
and kind of anticipate my needs and then respond accordingly?
Precisely. Imagine a metaverse that can, like, sense your frustration if you're struggling with something
Oh, wow. Yeah.
and adjust the difficulty level, or like give you helpful hints, or even imagine a virtual workspace that can like adapt to your energy levels
Oh, wow.
throughout the day.
That's wild.
Yeah, and like subtly change the lighting or the ambient sounds to
Wow.
keep you focused and productive.
It's like having a personal assistant that knows me better than I know myself.
Right, in a way, yeah.
That's amazing.
But it's not like intrusive or overwhelming.
Right, right.
It's about creating that symbiotic relationship
Okay.
between the human and the technology where each is enhancing the other's capabilities.
So as we kind of wrap up here, what are some key takeaways, for our listeners? What do you hope that they kind of walk away from this conversation with?
I think, the biggest one for me is that the metaverse isn't just about escaping reality.
Okay.
It's about expanding it.
Okay.
It's about creating new possibilities for how we learn and work and play and connect with each other.
Right.
And that at the heart of this transformation is HCI.
Okay.
This just fascinating field
Yeah.
that's constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible
Yeah.
at the intersection of humans and technology.
That's a really good point. It's like we're kind of writing the rules as we go here a little bit, which is exciting and also a little bit, I don't know, nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
It's definitely giving us a lot to think about. If our interactions with the metaverse become so intuitive that they're almost subconscious, how will that change our perception of reality?
Right.
It's a big question.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it such an exciting time
Yeah.
to be paying attention to this field.
Yeah, for sure.
The future of the metaverse is literally being shaped right now.
Yeah.
And it's up to all of us to engage in these thoughtful and informed conversations
Yes.
about what we want that future to look like.
Couldn't agree more. Well said.
Yeah.
A huge thank you to our expert for taking us on this incredible deep dive into the world of HCI and the metaverse.
Of course. Happy to be here.
And to you, our listeners, we hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. What aspects of this technology excite you the most? What concerns you? What are you thinking about? Let's keep this conversation going. You can find us on all the socials. Just search for The Deep Dive. Until next time, keep exploring.